This episode of Sportish is brought to you by Active Queenslanders Industry Alliance's First Start Traineeship program.
Hello and welcome to Sportish, where we talk about life through the lens of sport. I'm Libby Trickett.
And I'm Georgie Trickett. And Libby, I'm very excited for this guest today.
We have a guest in studio.
It's been a while since we've done this, and off the back of our Play Well series, we wanted to make sure we kept on having conversations with different people, not only about their relationship with sport, but what they're doing in the world of sport. So today's guest, we're very excited, is Lord Mayor Adrian Schrinner. For those of you outside of Brisbane, not all the sporties are from Brisbane, so we need to give you a bit of context. Brisbane is the biggest council in Australia and, in fact, the second biggest council in the Southern Hemisphere. So when it comes to understanding what cities, what regions need, I think Brisbane is pretty well placed. And of course, Brisbane is hosting an Olympics and Paralympics in a very short period of time.
6 years.
We got to be getting organised.
We got to get on it.
Which is exactly why we've asked the Lord Mayor to come in and speak to us today. Lord Mayor, welcome. Thank you for joining us on Sportish.
Well, thank you. And you know what? It's my birthday today.
Oh, happy
birthday.
49. So I don't know how I feel about that, but it's 1 year left.
I know. It's a privilege to grow old. And I think that's a wonderful... Thank you for sharing your birthday with us.
No, I couldn't think of a better way to spend my birthday.
How wonderful.
It's 50 is halfway through life, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're just hitting your prime. That's how I feel about my 40s and, heading into our 50s. Absolutely.
And I honestly think that 50 today isn't what 50 was 20 years ago. It feels very different. And maybe it is because we're more active and doing more to look after ourselves. So Sportish is all about a connection to sport and how we create and ways for people to be involved and reduce those barriers. And as part of it, we like to ask our guests what their connection to sport is and what it looked like for them growing up.
Well, I have to say, I did play sport. If I had to describe myself, it would be more like bookish rather than sportish. My idea of great relaxation is actually to go for a walk.
That's
and then
sport.
to read a book.
But that's the same for Ash Barty.
Yes,
you're in great
absolutely.
company.
Absolutely. And I'm all about my walking nowadays. Yeah. So it is absolutely a perfect way to move your body.
To answer your question, it was soccer at school mainly. Yeah. And so, played soccer all the way through primary school, high school. I tried some other sports as well, got into touch football a bit, and that was great. And then when I left school, I actually joined the military. So I went to the Defence Force Academy in Canberra for a couple of years, and sport, it was a big part of that. And I played touch football down in Canberra with the Defence Force Academy.
There's 4 kids in the Schrinner tribe, and you and Lady Mayoress Nina. It's a big effort with multiple kids all of the time. I would love to know how they're involved in sport or how you guys kind of manage it all in a household of 6.
Look, we know sport is really important for them to be involved with, so we've made sure that they have an opportunity to try out different sports. But the 2 boys, so there's 2 boys, 2 girls, they've chosen soccer as well, which I'm happy about. And they've tried other things. Basketball didn't really work out for them, and they're not that tall either, just like me. So, it's like they weren't really basketball people.
Genetics is working against them.
Exactly. There's other things we do as well. So we've had the girls into gymnastics when they were younger. The 2 younger kids went to trampolining at PCYC at Carindale, which they loved. And so, Saturday mornings we are out at soccer. That involves a lot of driving around to different locations all over Southeast Queensland.
Really does.
Some of the games are down at Bow Desert. They're all over the place. So, it's good. And our elder daughter, she's 13. She's in the Air Force cadets. She wants to join the Air Force. And so she's really into the sort of the military kind of physical activity and that sort of thing. So that really gets her going at the moment. So, there's a lot of different things.
Brisbane has an incredible park network. I think it's one of the most amazing things about this city. If you fly over it, there are so many green spaces.
Incredible.
And I think it's worth noting that Brisbane City Council does an incredible job at activating those green spaces. And I've benefited from that myself quite directly through some of the programs you do. You put on free exercise programs. When I was a new mum and I had an 11-week-old baby, one of my friends pulled me out of the house and said, you have to come to this exercise class. And it was just a low risk turn up, met other mums in a very similar position. And in fact, they became like a de facto mothers group, and it also involved exercise. And they're still some of my, very close friends today. So I think the council does a great job at doing that. And I've been watching in our local area recently kids who have been building ramps and just having the most incredible time out in nature. And when I watched it, I thought, isn't it great that we've got these spaces for kids to do that? And then as the months went past, the ramps would get flattened, and it almost became a bit of a game between the council workers and the kids. And I think there were some comments from neighbours and things like that. As councils, why do we need to get rid of those more organic play situations that kids are creating?
Look, I totally get it. When I was their age, I was actually on those homemade jumps myself.
Yes.
They tended to be in the bush. So it was in a bushland area, and it was sort of a bit out of sight from people. And I think here what's happened is it was in a park, and so it was very visible. And there's always people who will think that's great that the kids are doing that, they're getting active, but then there's always people that complain as well.
Yeah.
And so we do have a duty of care for safety, and it's one of those things where in a perfect world, I'd be like, let kids be kids. But I did have an experience myself, so I know these things can go badly. I actually got knocked unconscious in one of these sort of unauthorized BMX things in the bush. I had to have an ambulance come and get me. So
my goodness.
People can get injured on them. So we do have to find the balance. So the response of the council is effectively like, we know there's demand for this. Let's build these ones that are safe and certified. They're designed to be safe and they have all the right features. And so we've been rolling them out because we know there's huge demand for it. And there's a great one that's just been opened in recent times down in Glindeman Park in Holland Park.
Yep.
It's so well used. There's one up at Victoria Park that we opened a couple of years ago as well. So across the city, there's a whole heap of parks with great biking facilities, and some of them are sort of the bike jumps and ramps and that sort of thing. So we want to roll out more of them because we know that there's a huge demand, and we know it's great that kids are doing this. So yeah, it's just about finding the right balance between safety and letting kids be kids.
Yeah.
So
it has been interesting because I was, at the time that the kids were creating the jumps, that pump track at Holland Park hadn't been opened yet. And I was really interested to see what would happen once it was opened. And to be completely honest, they haven't tried to build a jump since. And I've seen those kids riding the streets to that location at Holland Park. So they are really responding to what's been built. I think that's great to see.
I'm interested because there is, I think, a gap at the moment between like little kids parks and bigger kids parks. Yeah. And I think what we're seeing as parents who are kind of battling against the rise of social media and technology use and video games and all those sorts of things in how to draw kids out, especially the tweens and teens, in a really positive way. Do you kind of consult with teens and tweens about what sort of play spaces that they'd like to use? Obviously, there's the pump track, which is great, but what about for young girls who might not be interested in like BMX tracks?
There's a couple of ways we do it, but absolutely, there's that gap. You're right. A lot of the playgrounds were previously for little kids, sort of, maybe 10 years and under.
And we have spent so much time.
And so grateful for those.
And there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
But then there was a gap sort of between about 10 and maybe about 15. And so we started building sort of more adventurous things, and that includes playgrounds as well. So you would be familiar with Bradbury Park,
yes,
over on the north side. So that one was a little bit controversial. It's an amazing playground.
Incredible.
There were some elements there that included a bit of danger. And, it was obviously controlled. There was soft fall down there, but there's a beam that you can walk across.
Yes, we've been there multiple times. We love it.
The debate around that beam has been raging, and sort of a lot of parents were saying, this is fantastic. They were there watching their kids build up confidence, and, it was a risk-taking thing. But then there are other parents that were like, that is totally dangerous. That should be shut down. How did you ever approve this? And so, at that age, though, kids want to be adventurous, and the little kids' playground is not going to do it for them. So, finding that balance. There's a couple of ways that we do it. Through local councillors, they're always talking to people about what's needed in a particular area, what the gaps are. But also we actually have a Lord Mayor's Youth Advisory Council, and that includes Year 10 students from right across Brisbane. And they've been fantastic in coming up with ideas for some of the older kids. So, they're about 16 at that age, but they've given us some really great suggestions as well on where the gaps are. So, it's a process of evolving what parks look like and how people use them and what facilities are there. And definitely we're working to fill that gap in the 10 plus age group.
What's the process for kids to get involved in that youth advisory group? If we've got parents listening who are thinking, my child would love to be involved, how do they do that?
Or from, around Australia who think they might want to get involved in something themselves.
Yeah, so it's basically nominated through the schools. So each school nominates one or two people to be involved. And so we write out to every school in Brisbane to invite them to be part of it. And yeah, it's a great thing. It's been going for a number of years. It's really popular. We've continued to evolve it. Also, just through the local councillor as well. That's, probably the best way to do it. Remember when I was a local councillor, you don't often get contacted by kids in that 10 to 15 age group. But when you do, you listen. You're like, oh, this is great. I got some feedback as a local councillor that there was a park that needed some extra equipment, worked on the process. And that process can sometimes take time. So we got it planned. We did community consultation. We ended up getting it built. I then called up, the kid that suggested it. And he's like, oh, I've moved out of the area.
No.
But everyone else enjoyed it. So
Great.
that feedback is really worthwhile through local councillors.
It must be such a thrill to be able to feel like you're giving back to specific segments of the community and, really enjoy that part of being the Lord Mayor.
Hey, Libby.
Hey, Georgina.
Have you heard about the Active Industries First Start Traineeship program?
Is that the one where you get $20,000 wage subsidy for not-for-profit clubs and organisations?
Totally. I thought this was just wild and I didn't know that this existed, and I can already think of so many clubs that could benefit from this. This is a bit of money that you can use to bring someone on who's not just a volunteer, they're actually an employee of your club to help you get all the things done that you need to get done.
And are they the people who kind of haven't been in work for a while, so it helps them return to work as well?
It can be, or it can just be you converting a volunteer into somebody who can do all the doing.
Because that's the thing, in all of these sorts of organisations, it relies so much on volunteers and people are so busy. And they need to be able to put together these things that help organisations take it to another level.
We want people in clubs to be able to rely on somebody to print out the spreadsheets, to organise the websites so that the people who are volunteering can get out on the court or on the field and do what they do best.
Basically, people can take advantage and all they need to do is submit an application and AQIA can actually help you with that. So head to the website or click the link in the show notes. Take advantage of this incredible opportunity. Talking about the Olympics in Brisbane, it's hard to kind of put into words for me as a former athlete how exciting it is to have Brisbane hosting an Olympics in my lifetime. Like that is just never would have thought that would be possible. How exciting is that for you and how does the council feel, about the entire prospect, because it's a huge undertaking, but, specifically about the kind of the development about the Victoria Park and the major entertainment and sporting precincts that we need to create?
Look, I'm super excited as well. And first of all, I want to thank you for the role that you've done in our legacy committee.
Thank you.
That's been an amazing body of work that's been put together. And we're getting to the point where in a matter of months now, we're releasing the legacy plan. And the interesting thing is people are aware that, there's big things happening. There's the stadium and aquatic centre and sports facility upgrades. There's transport improvements coming. But also the little things are really important. And so that's the human scale things. Like how do we do a lot of little things between now and the lead up to the Olympics that make Brisbane a more active place, that, create more spaces for people to enjoy and get outdoors, because that's a living legacy.
Yes. And
ultimately one of the things we want to achieve out of this is to make sure that people have more opportunities to be active and healthy and participate in sports. And I've got to say, Brisbane is starting from a strong base. Yeah. Like we are a pretty active place. And particularly if you go out anywhere in Brisbane in the morning, you see just how many active people are out there at the crack of dawn, exercising, running. all kinds of activities using our gym equipment in parks, but there's an opportunity to really target that investment in things that make our city more active and healthy. And so I'm really excited about that. Part of the legacy plan is called Loving the Leftovers. And Libby, you would be aware of that. It's basically turning unused space into something that is usable. And a great example that we had recently was in the city underneath the Turbot Street Bridge, the overpass there. It was just a dead space. It was just a concreted area, and it's now been turned into a multi-sport court, and it is used constantly. Like, it is always booked, and there's great demand. And so people they're working in an office, and then at lunchtime they'll go and play in the multi-sport court, and they're playing basketball, they're playing pickleball, they're playing soccer in that little court. So it just goes to show there's huge demand, and there's so many other opportunities to do that as well. So big things and little things will come out of this Olympic opportunity. And I think sometimes the little things are more exciting.
I think that's the thing, like, you know, there can be controversy about the big development sites like Victoria Park, whether we have, you know, a pool that remains or not, and those kinds of infrastructures. But it is really, like any kind of Olympics or Paralympics, is so much about the legacy of what it leaves the city with. I'm not sure that people really fully understand how powerful it is.
The way that the population in Brisbane has changed and the generations. And so the biggest group in Brisbane of adults is the millennial generation. Right?
Hello.
And they are...
Hello, that is us. Yes, correct.
Incredibly focused on well-being and health. And
yes, we are.
It is, it's the new thing. And so there's been a huge transition. Earlier generations, you know, were probably less concerned about health and well-being, and millennials drink less. They're probably going out to clubs less, and they're more focused on going to the gym and staying active and healthy. And so, like, let's own this trend that's already there and really, like, build on it. So, you know, it's the biggest group in Brisbane.
You mentioned that there's a legacy plan report coming out in a couple of months. Can you talk to any specifics about where the legacy focus will be in sports participation?
So, for example, in the Brisbane City Council area, we have 600 community leased sporting facilities and community facilities. So there's hundreds of sports groups and of all different kinds. And we want to start there with how can we sort of grow what we already have and invest in facilities to increase participation. That's a good start. But then it's the informal activity as well that we need to support. So it might not be organised sport, but it might be, you know, do we need to invest more in outdoor gym facilities for people and in those, you know, multi-purpose sports courts that people can just use? Organised sports is one, informal sports is another, and we need to actually really supercharge that. And, you know, probably the best legacy in my view after the Olympics is, yes, we'll have better transport, we'll have better facilities, but also a healthier community and a more active community. So, yeah, there's a whole heap of things, but you'll have to wait a month or two until the legacy plan comes out.
I mean,
You can't get a pre.
Might be able to, like, tell you a few things off the record.
Just off the record.
It'll be straight here once we're allowed to be.
Correct. Exactly right.
So, Lord Mayor, would you say that for our community clubs, they need to start thinking now about what they need and what role they want to play in this next version of what Brisbane looks like?
Yeah, they already are. There's no doubt about that. There's huge excitement, and, you know, we're already receiving lots of proposals on, you know, a club saying, look, we have these facilities, but if we had this sort of upgrade or this improvement, we could do so much more. And so we're really working on that. And, you know, part of that is boosting participation of girls in sport, which is so critical. And a lot of maybe traditionally sort of male-dominated sports are really boosting, and the biggest areas of growth are actually girls participating, and different levels of government have had programs to support that, and it's been fantastic. But just breaking down the barriers to, you know, what are those barriers to people getting involved in sport and physical activity? And I think the state government has vouchers at the moment that people get access to, so there's a whole lot of work being done. For 2032 to be a success, we have to do well when it comes to competing as well. You know that, like,
yes.
It's critical. That is underway right now in the community, and there are so many people that have their eye on that prize, and we need to do everything we can to support them. And the medals that are won in 2032 will then inspire the next generation. That will last on 20, 30 years of legacy that will inspire people to be involved in sport. And, you know, I love hearing the stories of athletes like yourself who've inspired other people, to get into swimming, or, with Nat Cook to get into volleyball. There's just so many of those stories, and that's what really leaves a legacy as well.
I think that's why I was so excited to hear that there was going to be a pool built, because I know how powerful it was for me to go and swim at Homebush at Sydney Olympic Park. I broke a world record there, and, to know that I was swimming in the same water that Enga de Bruin and Susie O'Neill and all of these incredible, iconic, Ian Thorpe and Kieran Perkins, all of these incredible athletes, Grant Hackett, my gosh, it really does inspire the next generation of athletes, whether or not they go on to be an Ian Thorpe or a Susie O'Neill it doesn't really matter, but it inspires them to get moving. It inspires them to get active. And I think that's a really powerful thing. I'm very conscious that we have been talking a lot about Brisbane, and there are sporties who listen who aren't from Queensland. What's your recommendation for those around Australia to get involved in their communities and in their councils to really make a difference to their own communities?
Well, so much of this sort of active and healthy lifestyle and the activities starts with local councillors and local council supporting it. So many of the facilities are council facilities or council lease facilities. And so it's always the best place to start when it comes to getting the community involved. Start with your local council, with your local councillor. And if you have suggestions, they're going to be a listening ear. And, as much as this will be Brisbane's games, Southeast Queensland games, it will be Australia's games as well. And so all around Australia, there'll be people inspired by this. And I remember, the feeling I had when Sydney hosted the Olympics. I didn't care that it was in Sydney. I didn't feel, that's not my game. I felt this was my game.
Yeah.
And you did too. No
Absolutely.
doubt. And these are our games. And so it's the whole of Australia that will benefit. And there's also an opportunity as well in our region, because we have a number of Pacific nations that, have poor access to sports. And I know the government is actually working with those nations to actually grow their participation. So it can be even more than just an Australian games. It can be a Pacific games. So there's so many opportunities.
It's such an exciting time to live in the River City and to see the growth that's happening and to be witnessing it in real time. It's never been more exciting for sport and also for this community. Lord Mayor, thank you so much for joining us on Sportish today. You're welcome back anytime.
Yes.
We might need to talk about this legacy plan.
Yes, please. We would love to talk more about that. I think it's a really important example of how sport is so much more than just the playing or the swimming or the running. It's also about the connection to the community. And I think you've talked so well to that today. Thank you.
And I think reminding people that they have an ability to connect with their councils and make a difference in their own communities. I think that's a really powerful message as well.
Thank you for having me.
The Lord Mayor has gone now, Georgie.
He's exited the building.
I think it was such a great conversation to have with someone who is obviously intimately involved with the 2032 games.
I mean, he nearly gave us the scoop. Not quite, but nearly.
Almost.
Gosh, we're close.
I know, we're so close.
We've just got to keep working
We're
at it.
in with the council now. But it's great. I think, as you mentioned, Brisbane is such an important city council in Australia. Like, it's huge, and it's got a massive opportunity here to not only impact obviously the elite level of sport with the Olympics and the Paralympics, but all the way down to grassroots. And they're really thinking about how this opportunity can impact all of those levels.
And I think as well, you might be outside of Brisbane and you might think, well, what does this have to do with me? But there's so many great things that councils can learn from each other. And there's great programs. There'll be great programs in other states that we can pick up here in Brisbane, and there'll be great programs that exist here in Brisbane that other councils could go, hey, that looks pretty nice. We might do it. Like the $2 Summer Dips program, where in Brisbane during summer you can access any council pool for $2, and that completely changed how many people are using our pool spaces.
Yeah, and I think that is such an amazing opportunity. But I think also you can get really deflated about the state of the world sometimes and feel like you're not in control of anything and you can't actually have a really positive impact on your community. But this is how you do it. You go through your council, you talk to your local councillor, and you can do that. You don't have to obviously be in Brisbane. You can do that anywhere you are in Australia, and that can have such positive impact for your community. And I couldn't recommend enough to go and talk to your councillor, talk to your city council, and make a difference in those spaces, in how your kids are accessing parks, creating spaces that are for teens and tweens.
And I think it's a really good reminder, if you've got the time to complain about something, if you're going to come to me with your problems, come to me with some solutions.
Yes, exactly.
You guys will know what your kids need, what the teens need, what your community needs. If you're seeing problems, if you've got jumps that are being flattened, ask for a pump track to be built.
Yep.
Provide the solution and be part of the solution. I think we have a tendency nowadays, because everyone's very busy and there's a lot of rushing, and it's all very valid. And if we want our communities to look different, we have to be active participants in it.
I totally agree. And I just think that conversation with the Lord Mayor today for me has reminded me how important those conversations are.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Sportish. You can catch us on YouTube, on Spotify,
on the Instagram,
on all your podcast apps. We're everywhere. Some may say you're getting sick of us. We hope not.
We are.
I can't see you anymore.
That's enough.
We'll be back in your ears next week. Bye.
Bye.
This episode of Sportish is brought to you by Active Queenslanders Industry Alliance's First Start Traineeship program.